Sometimes dogs can bring out the very best and worst in people, right? This was proven true again in this latest example from Barb's dog rescue. The story of Joseph's journey, coming up on this episode of the Rocky Point podcast.
Welcome, Puerto Penasco lovers. This is the Rocky Point podcast with award-winning host Thomas Baldrick.
As always, thank you for being with us. I'm Thomas Baldrick. It is with mixed emotions that I do this particular episode, and it is with mixed emotions that I announce I have accepted and been elected to the board of directors of Barb's Dog Rescue in Rocky Point, Mexico, a designated 501c3 nonprofit organization. Indeed, this is an honor for me, but I also know my dear friend Barbara and all the dogs will now officially have me wrapped around their little fingers and paws. Sadly, I also know I will be even more exposed to the heartaches which make this safe haven for dogs needed more every day. Case in point, the journey of Joseph. Let me set the scene for you. It was the night of Tuesday, August 3rd. I was at the rescue specifically to talk over some important matters with Barb. I was trying to do this, but my girlfriend Frida and my buddy Chapo were hounding me for treats, just like they always do. Someone rang the bell at the west gate of the rescue. Nellie, who works there, was already busy, so I said, I'll go meet the people. I figured they were dropping off a dog food donation. Wrong again, Baldrick. There was Edie Stevenson and her husband, Joe. They had just left their Las Palomas condo and were on their way home to Tucson. And they weren't delivering dog food. They were delivering all right, but it was a dog in bad shape, in really bad shape. They found him and couldn't leave him the stretch of road right by where the Superlay supermarket is and the stadium. Edie tells the story.
So my husband and I had just packed up from our condo, and we needed to make it to the border by 8 to get back home because I had to work the next day. And as we were driving, through Puerto Penasco, we encountered, from a distance, I could see a dog in the street. But the closer we got, I could see that he wasn't well. And initially, we thought maybe that he had been hit by a car because he wasn't steady in how he was standing. He didn't look good and he looked dazed. So I said, pull over, we have to do something. And my husband said, what are we going to do? I said, we're taking him to Barb's Dog Rescue. I mean, that was just the first, I'm like, Barb's Dog Rescue, that's what we're going to do. So we pulled over. I got out of my truck. And by the time I got around to the back of my truck, traffic had built up behind us. They were trying to get around the dog. And he was in the middle of the street, kind of stumbling around. He lost his footing once or twice and fell, got back up, and was just, I don't really know how to explain it, but just stumbling around. And I couldn't believe it. The cars were just honking at him. Cars were stopped, but they were honking at him. And it just broke my heart. Clearly the dog couldn't get out of the way. Made me really sad that people would do that. So anyway, I proceeded with what I was going to do, which is get the dog. So I went over to him, and I have a little bit of knowledge on dogs, and I'm a nurse. And I was a little bit worried that he might bite me because I knew he was afraid and he was hurt. And, I thought, God, don't bite me. I got down right by his face and I said, it's okay. Don't bite me. Don't bite me. You're okay. And I picked him up and I carried him back to my truck. There was a Hispanic lady by my truck warning me and gesturing about his body. And she was trying to warn me that he was covered in ticks and that I shouldn't touch him. We just proceeded still to get him into the back of our truck. We had a blanket that we were able to put down so that he could be comfortable. And I got in back, sat with him, and my husband, drove the truck to Barb's Dog Rescue. honestly, this was my thought process. So as a nurse and as an ICU nurse, I'm with people during really bad times, and I've been with a lot of people who have passed without their family alone. And so my main intention, with the dog that we found, was that he feel comfort, that he not feel fear, and that he not be alone. So for the whole ride to the rescue, I had my head down on his head, and I had looked in his ear, his ear canal from pretty much outer ear all the way in. It's just really the worst thing I've ever seen. It was covered in ticks. You couldn't even see skin. I mean, it was just solid ticks, and I couldn't believe it. But I put my head down by him, and I was talking to him, and I was telling him, it's okay. You're a good dog. You're such a good boy, and you're a pretty boy. And I was petting him and loving on him and rubbing on him. And all I could think of was, if God takes you now, just somehow feel this comfort, feel love, feel that you matter. You matter to me. And I wanted to get to the rescue. And I think by the time when I saw you guys, I think I know I was crying just with the dog. I know I was crying on him a little bit, but I know when you guys came out, I just started sobbing.
My goodness, Edie, you felt so responsible. I remember trying to console you and thank you for the tremendous thing you did, just bringing him to the rescue to give him a chance.
That's a beautiful way to think of it. That's a nice way to think of it.
What a selfless act by you and your husband. Time was ticking, and then I remembered you were on your way to the border. I said to you, you've got to go. But you were so focused on the dog. I remember saying, I'll take him. And you gave me a blanket. I gave you my phone number. I wrapped him up and was taking him into the rescue. And then, even then, Joe took extra time and opened and closes the gates for me.
The condition he was in, to be honest, I didn't think he'd make it through the night. He had almost no fur. He looked like a skeleton just with skin. And I just wondered, like, how does this happen? Why does this happen? And I was very emotional, very, very, very upset.
Then I went inside, told Barb we had a real problem. She came out, confirmed the dog needed medical attention, and now she called Dr. Leon, the veterinarian, and when he couldn't help, Barb did what Barb does.
There she was. There was Barb by my truck. And I just was like, because for years, my friends have been like, we dropped food off at Barb's dog rescue, and we did this and we did this. And I'm like, wow, Barb. And I tell Joe, our goal and what we will be doing is retiring in Mexico and spending a lot of time volunteering at the rescue. And but when I met her, I was like, are you Barb? I mean, really?
Yeah.
And
Are you Barb?
here you are. It's 7 at night. It's almost 7 at night, and it's hot and it's humid, and Barb is really here. And I know I said, you're a hero, because she is a hero. She is a hero to so many people. And it was so cool to see her. And she got right on the phone and she started networking right away, trying to get help for him. And it was just awesome. And I remember you saying to me, she is a woman who gets what she asks for in almost all cases.
Barb and David, who works at the rescue, got a kennel ready. And Barb's sister Dee, who always works there at night, she showed up, and Dee makes everything better. And the kitchen counter was cleared for me to lay down our newest arrival in what was basically a makeshift doggy triage setup, right there in the kitchen. As you can guess, this was far from Barb's first rodeo. She demanded to know the dog's temperature. It was an ugly 102.6 Fahrenheit. She administered an IV, getting him desperately needed fluids. He didn't even flinch with the needle, just laying there quietly and softly breathing. And with each breath, you could easily see his ribs. This boy was so malnourished. I asked Barb's permission to start removing some of the hundreds of ticks that were literally sucking the life out of this poor dog. Dee held a flashlight while I dug into his ears, which had been deeply and completely invaded. Barb and her sister Dee are two peas in a pod, besties, kindred spirits, shopping partners, and soulmates. So picture this. Here I am, the least experienced of the group, and I'm stressing over this dog's final breath coming with me digging into his ear, removing ticks. Dee decided to tease me, saying, "Hey Thomas, did we forget to tell you that this would be part of your duties as a member of the board of directors?" It was a much needed laugh. It really was. But I will admit, I dropped a ball that I am supposed to carry. After a while, Barb said to me, "Oh, Thomas, you need to do a video on this." Duh, I completely forgot. Never even thought of it. I was so focused on helping the dog. But I did get a few shots along the way as best I could.
Oh, would you ever know something so little could be so deadly?
This guy's missed a few meals too.
Yeah.
I was thinking, hey, we really need to name this guy.
I saw at one point that you named him Joseph, which I just think is it's so cool. It's so beautiful. And my husband's name is Joseph, and I work at St. Joseph's Hospital, which you really listened, because that's kind of, I think, the only thing really I told you about myself is that I was a nurse who worked at St. Joseph's.
The disgusting tick removal process continued for about 2 hours, with 5 of us plucking and plucking and plucking some more. The tweezers would be tired before the women on Barb's team. They were simply amazing. After I laid Joseph in his kennel for the night, Barb said to me in a way that only she can do, "Now, Thomas, don't get your hopes up." She was right. She has seen it all. I told her I was going to have a big margarita. She said, "Have one for me too." And I did. My friend Judd makes the best. Anyway, I went back Wednesday, the next day. I stopped in the rescue on my way home to Arizona, and I saw Joseph miraculously made it through the night. Barb said he ate some food and drank some water, but still he could barely lift his head. Standing or moving around was out of the question. I poked my head into his kennel and whispered to him, "Keep fighting, buddy." He never moved, laying on his side, but he opened his eye for just a moment. Friday morning, the phone rang. When I saw it was Barb, I had that sinking feeling. Joseph made it through the first night. He made it through the second night. He did not make it through the third night. But by this time already, Edie and Joe had already donated to Barb's and had pledged to continue to donate every month for Joseph's ongoing care. I let her know the sad news and thanked her and Joe for their heroic efforts. But like most heroes, Edie deflected it.
I don't look at it that way. I feel really lucky. I feel lucky that we drove by. I feel lucky that we got to pick him up. And I was realistic. And what I really wanted was for that dog to have some touch with humanity, where he felt love and kindness and goodness.
In thinking about telling this story of the journey of Joseph, it hit me how one dog was able to bring out the worst and best in people.
He had clearly been in bad shape for a long time, and nobody who saw him helped him. They all were staying away. Like, the woman warned me to stay away because of ticks. They abandoned him. That really bothered me about humanity. I didn't care, though, because what I know about dogs, and I say this all the time, I prefer dogs to people. They're fantastic. Your dog lives for you. We have several dogs, and they don't even much care how much love you give them back. They're still just going to love you no matter what. And that's what I thought about with Joseph. And I saw the beauty in humanity when you and Barb, another gentleman, came out. You guys cared so much. I don't know what we would have done if you weren't there. I really don't. I don't know what we would have done, because I guess I would have said, crossed the border with the dog and we're taking him home. We're taking him to a vet. I would never have left him. I don't know what we would have done. So I thank God for you that I was able to leave him in your hands.
In wrapping up here, let us remember to focus on the goodness. And it feels absolutely perfect in this moment to share the wisdom and words of Barbara Muma telling me that Joseph had passed. She said, what's important is to realize and remember he finally knew what love and care was before he died. Not one time, not once, did I think that all that was done to save Joseph's life was wasted time or wasted effort. And yours won't be either if and when you choose to help this Rocky Point institution known as Barb's Dog Rescue. Right now, there is a dire need for canned dog food. Many of the dogs need it both physically and emotionally. If you can bring some, great. If you can't, then perhaps you can at least transport some from the Why Not Travel store. Thanks to St. Teresa Penland and St. Shelley Marsh for leading those efforts. Thanks to Edie and Joe, Barb and Dee, the medical team at Barb's Dog Rescue, and of course, thanks to you for choosing to spend your time with us. I'm Thomas Baldrick. Until next time, adios, friends. Keep looking for the goodness in life and in others, and we'll keep looking for you on the Rocky Point Podcast.